Hello, everybody. This is Madeline with Embrace the Madness. Here on this podcast, we just create like a bridge between human life and remembering our true nature as these big, awesome, abundant, super cool spiritual beings. Beans. We like to joke around calling things beans. But fret not, beans are not bad. Beans are fucking awesome. Green beans. Shout out Chelsea. We like went through all of these like green beans, queen beans. She called me OG bean. Yeah. If you want to know more about beans, we can talk about that later, but yeah, thanks for joining me today. I just wanted to touch base. I think a lot of weird things happened in 2020, and a lot of us, me included, have been thinking, okay, this new year is going to bring cool new things. It's going to be great. And if you've been paying attention to the news, things do not seem cool at all. So it's like, what? If you didn't already know, people stormed the Capitol, which was weird. I also think it's kind of silly to compare the Black Lives Matter movement with what happened this past week. So, yeah, there's a lot to unpack. And I just wanted to talk about today why it's so important that we can find this balance between staying informed and making sure that we're not kind of like these hermits. And if you're a hermit, it's okay. If that's how you operate, that's fine. But in my life, I'm trying to find this healthy balance because I understand that in this human world, it's really important that I am present and here for all of these circumstances and these experiences and these events. But I also recognize that if I get too caught up in these things that are happening, then I lose my power and I just lose my whole self. And I know that if I'm going through this, that I'm not alone and that there's got to be other people going through this. And I think we've all realized the power of social media and the power of the media in general and its power over us. And it's important to kind of remember that the whole point of media and creating these things, writing these articles, is you're trying to get people's attention. And I think there's a good way to go about it. I think we've also faced this past year the idea that journalism isn't always necessarily truthful or neutral, which sucks because now it seems like our trust has been completely violated. And so we're kind of just going through this weird time. And now it's like, what do I do? I've caught myself waking up in the mornings and checking my email and looking on Reddit and checking Facebook. And I know that these are not healthy habits. And I know that starting my day off this way is not good for me. But it's like I can't stop. And I want to be able to stop. I want to be able to take my power back. I want to be able to be in a good mood because I believe that we all deserve joy. It doesn't matter if you're white, if you're black, if you're brown. I think that we all deserve happiness. And I think that the world we live in likes to tell us who deserves to be happy and why these certain groups of people don't deserve it, or just this weird idea. I was listening to a podcast by Shaman Durek. He's so good. I love him so much. And he's just focused on joy and sharing his message. And he was just kind of doing a whole rundown of this whole idea that in order to keep this control over like the masses is to paralyze them, to break them down, to to get them so riled up that they're just so angry and anger consumes them. And I'm sure we've talked about it even on the podcast, but I'm sure you've heard of divide and conquer. If and even the chants from this movement that we experience and are still experiencing, but the people united will never be divided. And I think the people in power know and recognize that, and that scares the fucking shit out of them. And it's so much better for them to get us to fight with each other, get the left to fight with the right. Because when we're fighting, we're not paying attention to what is actually happening. And what's interesting is I think people on both sides are realizing this. They're just kind of going about it different ways. Because you can see people on the right are talking about deep state and all of these things about how the government's trying to take away our freedom, which I agree with, and this whole term called sheeple. And I get it. I think we have to be careful though, because we get into this idea of like, oh, well, I know this is the truth, so I'm better than you. And we end up not working together. And I totally recognize that we're in a really big shit storm. And I think when I reframe it, I think that it's important that we are working through all this stuff so that we can heal it, so that we can learn to work together. And I recognize that not everybody shares my opinion, and that's okay. I think that I'm trying to embrace this idea that I'm very here and present in this human life, but I also know that my inner nature and my true self is this powerful and spiritual and abundant being. And so I feel like I just want to share and remind everybody of this. So yeah, we're kind of getting into all the things, and I feel like I just want to try and help be a voice of reason to people, because I know like we're all fucking struggling. It's just a disaster. Like me and my boyfriend will just get on our politics on Reddit, and it's just like that is not what needs to happen. It's just not. Like, if I'm trying to live my dreams and if I'm trying to create these things in my life and for myself, then I cannot give away my power like that. And I think it gets in this tricky gray area, because people might claim, well, that's my privilege. And I hear you. I think that we all as humans have to kind of rise above the bullshit and understand. I heard something and it was like, oh, I think it might be a Buddhist thing, but if you're not in imminent danger, then be happy. And that's kind of like a weird idea for people, but I was thinking, yeah, that's pretty true. And I think it's probably easier for me to say as like a white person, but I do think that we have this power as human beings to create this reality for ourselves. And even if it means like positively brainwashing ourselves, I think it's important to remember that we can only help make change and live in alignment when we take our power back. And so, even when you are an activist and fighting for change and fighting for justice, I think alignment is still important and grounding yourself is still important, because truly stepping into your power is important for that. Because when you can step into your power and take the power back and not give it away and drain your energy, you can devote your entire being, your entire energy to fighting for this cause. And I think that's something that I have to remember and remind myself too, is I can't be present for a movement that I want to support if I'm not taking care of myself. And I think this goes for everybody. I think we're all humans. And so we have to remember that we have power over our minds. Because of this, I think we must be mindful of social media, and we must be mindful that we are not over consuming. And I think there's a very fine line between, you know, staying informed and also like hurting yourself. I think I think what was helpful for me, especially like reading the comment section. And I understand that like our egos are having a lot to do with things. Our egos get triggered when we get scared. Our egos get triggered when we don't feel safe. And the circumstances and environment that we have been in lately totally warrant feeling scared and unsafe. And it's not a fun way to live at all. So I'm sending everybody compassion and love because I know that it's hard. And I know that feeling lost and out of control is not fun. But I want to remind you that you have everything inside of you to live a life of joy and abundance, and intentionally and consciously seeking out what brings you joy. That's so, so important. So, anyways, I keep like trying to go back to the social media thing, but then I keep getting sidetracked. But I mean, I think it's kind of necessary, and I'm just sharing what's on my heart and all of these things. So, that fine line. And that's important for us to tune into our bodies because the line is so fine. We have to tune in and focus on our self awareness. Is my heart beating really fast right now? Am I like spiraling in anxiety? Do I think that something really bad's going to happen? Those kind of things. And it's like, I think something for me, remembering that like anxiety kind of happens like it's like you're pushing a button, and every time you're like scrolling on Reddit or you read like a headline that's stupid or anger fueled or trying to trigger somebody, like you're immediately like pressing the button on your anxiety. And I talked about, I can't remember if it was in a Patreon episode. I think so, probably, or here. But I think a lot of going through my anxiety journey was learning about the biology of what's actually happening and understanding that I can take back my power when I remember that I can kind of manipulate, and I mean manipulate in like a neutral sense, but just when I can either prevent my sympathetic nervous system from getting activated or consciously activate my parasympathetic. And sympathetic is your fight or flight, and your parasympathetic is your rest and relaxation. And so deep breathing activates your parasympathetic. Meditating helps activate your parasympathetic. Really, anything that we can do to help create this environment of peace and relaxation for our bodies, because the way that media and the news are written is that so it will garner a reaction from us. And I feel like they've been way more than successful with their goal, especially with the past year that we've had, trying to get everybody riled up and angry and divisive. And like I said, that's their goal. They want us to be not on our game. They want us to be out of alignment. I'm still not sure who they exactly is, but the matrix, whatever you want to call it, the higher ups, whoever. And I think it's our job to know this and remember this and use all opportunities that we have to come back to ourselves and stay focused on creating the life that we want and creating this environment that we enjoy living in. I think, I guess, one of the easiest ways to do this is by being present with our body, by listening to how our body's feeling in each and every moment, checking in with ourselves. I think it's one thing to know whatever, that the president is on track to be impeached or that the vote's going to go to the Senate and Mitch McConnell's not going to hold Senate until X date, Like, it's like once we know these facts, anything else is kind of just extra. And I feel like this extra is where we get lost. At least for me, it is. And I know I'll start doom scrolling or checking the comment section. And by then, it's like I'm just looking for something or trying to get riled up, or, it's just like you get stuck. And I could have had a cool ass day, but instead I chose to sit on the internet thinking about how horrible this world is. And I think it's okay to have that mindset and it's okay to point out the bad parts of the world because they do exist. And I don't want to pretend like they don't. I think that there is such a thing as toxic positivity, and pretending like nothing is horrible and there's no bad in the world is kind of naive, and I think I've transcended that. But what I do know is that focusing on the good and focusing on the positive helps me to feel better and helps me to stay aligned with what I want and my goals and how I want to continue on. And I think this is so important because at that point, I haven't let the matrix win, or I haven't let my power kind of get drained. I'm still choosing to stay empowered and choose how I want to feel about something. I think the media loves that they can post something and like it pisses everybody off. And I don't like living in pissed off states. I don't like being pissed. I don't like being angry. I get angry at myself. I get angry when I'm angry. You get stuck in this like, oh, well, shit, I hate that I'm feeling so sad, or I hate that I'm feeling so mad, and then it just turns into this spiral. And like the last person that we want to be against is ourselves because all we have is ourselves. And we want to build this relationship with ourselves to know that we're here no matter what. And I know the media is probably like, fuck yeah, 2020 was the best year because we get to like say all these things. And none of this is to discount anything that journalists are doing to promote healthy, positive, I say positive, but like neutral reporting, Like I don't want to completely slander journalism or media as a whole because I know that it's important, and it's important to communicate and relay information to society and humans. But I do think there's a certain integrity that has to be preserved. And so I know this year has just been challenging for that whole department. But yeah, monitoring your body awareness, your spiritual awareness, knowing that it's okay to put the phone down when you have read the day's headlines. Like, that's the thing. I get stuck like trying to update, like, ooh, what's happened in the last 30 minutes? And it's nothing. And usually, like, nothing happens over the course of hours. But it's like, instead of working on my podcast or working on my music, I've sat there for 2 hours refreshing Reddit, seeing if anything happened. And I don't want you to feel ashamed or feel bad if you're stuck in this loop, cuz I get stuck all the time. And I think it's just part of being human, and I just want to remind you that we have the power to transcend, and that I think it's to our best benefit that we do. And that we don't over identify with all these horrible things happening in the world, because it's true. Like, there are horrible things that are happening in this world. But I think equally, there are also really good things happening in the world. And I'm trying to be about creating more good things. And when I have my power taken away, I don't have any energy to create or to spread love or kindness. And so I have to do my best to make sure that I take care of my energy and I take care of this ability that I have, because I know the world needs more love. And if we are stuck in this mindset of anger and frustration and just, yeah, this horrible mindset that they want us to be in, then we're incapacitated. We're paralyzed. We have so much stress and anxiety that we don't know what to do. And I don't want to let anyone have control over me or my life in that way. And I know a lot of this is easier said than done. And I recognize that a lot about life is easier said than done, and that life is fucking hard. But I think it's worth it. And I think that we deserve peace and we deserve the life that we want to live in. But I think that we do have to take responsibility and accountability and hold ourselves to it. Create this life that we want. Learn how to turn off the bullshit, Learn how to ignore it. And it's like a slippery slope. There's people who pretend that it doesn't exist, and I don't think that's healthy either. We have a lot of power, and I know I talked about this in my Power of Choice episode, but we have a lot of power in where we choose to focus our attention. And even though it seems like it's not in our control, it is, I promise. We have control. And it's a whole different ballgame, because it's a lot of focus and a lot of discipline. And that's something that I struggle with. But I'm getting to the point where I recognize that my happiness and my peace is way more important than, just taking the easy way out. So I hope that you too can figure out what your fine line means and what it means for you to stay informed, but not lose yourself, And just pay attention to your body, pay attention to your heart, pay attention to the thoughts that you're having. Remind yourself that you're in control. Remind yourself that there are really good things in the world to focus on. And I think that's how we go about creating change, focusing on what we do have control over, getting ourselves out of this soap opera that is America right now. And if you are listening, Netflix put out a really funny thing called Death of 2020. I recommend it for sure. But yeah, check out of this soap opera, because our life doesn't have to be a soap opera if we don't want it to be, We can take back power. We can help create change. We need all the energy that we have in our bodies so that we can put it to good use. Use it for fighting for good. Use it for creating change. But it's going to take you and realizing this and being conscious in every moment, holding yourself accountable. It's not easy, but you deserve a happier world. I deserve a happier world. Everyone around us deserves a happier world. So I think we owe it to ourselves and everyone around us. But with that being said, just be mindful, take care of yourself, stay healthy out there, look out for everyone else, your friends, your family, your loved ones, and take back your power, take back your strength. I believe in you, and we'll catch you later. Bye. If you'd like access to more podcasts and a postcard each month, check us out on patreon.com/embracemadness.